everybody. Welcome to the Ellevate Louisiana Gubernatorial Forum. I'm Julie Stokes. I'm the founder and president of Ellevate Louisiana. Thank you to my peers. Thank you. Man, that's nice. Thank you. We're proud also to be co-hosting this event with the New Orleans Chamber. Where are you? New Orleans Chamber in the house? Yay! And the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Louisiana. Where are you? Yep. And, you know, I also want to let you guys know, you see this little camera back here, we are actually broadcasting live. They call it streaming. I'm sure you've heard of it. And there's an app. It's at Latinola. So it's like Latinola. That's kind of cute because they get the New Orleans, Louisiana part. So you can get that on that website, .news, latinola.news. And you can also catch it on YouTube and on their app, Latinola. So I was kind of excited about that, and I really appreciate those guys. That's my friend Diane Schnell. Raise your hand. She's a really good woman, I tell you what. Thank you so much. And her associate, Mike Behringer, who's manning the fort back there. Yeah, he's too busy to stand up. And So our plan for the evening, just so that you know, is that we are going to, like you're sitting now, you've got your salad, you've got your dessert. We're going to go ahead and eat that salad, and then they're going to come out and they're going to change your salad up for your entree, and then you're going to ask them for everything your little heart desires right then. They're going to leave wine on the table. They'll leave a whole bottle for you. Do whatever, you know, just tell them what you need, because I want them not to really come back. Because we want to have the debate be kind of uninterrupted. So anything your little heart desires, catch them right when they're giving you your entree. I just want to tell you a little bit about Ellevate Louisiana, because there's a lot of Ellevate women in here. If you're Ellevate, raise your hand, make some noise. Woo-woo. That's a lot. Woo. We are actually having our summit tomorrow. So that's our big annual event where we hear from experts on Louisiana. It changes with what's going on. But being an election year this year, we're going to hear all about different policy proposals for Louisiana and hear like all the, you know, I don't know, like the crystal ball on who's going to win all the elections around the state. So it'll be a real crash course in Louisiana, which is what we nicknamed it. So if you're not already a member of Ellevate Louisiana, you should do that. Thank you. Yes, I like that. Like that. That's my board right there, clapping for that. I like that. So the mission of Ellevate Louisiana is to empower women leaders throughout Louisiana by connecting them and educating them on the challenges impacting our state with the data-driven, nonpartisan solutions to make a better future for Louisiana. Included in that mission is a very intentional bent toward respecting people from all edges of the political spectrum. And that's what I love about it, and I think that that's what makes us unique. You will see in our membership people all the way from what you would consider the right all the way to the left, and we can get together and talk about things and find more agreement than we can argue about. Now, once the legislature gets a hold of it, sometimes they politicize it just a little bit. So once they're finished with it, we might have some different opinions on it every now and then. But it's been really amazing, and I feel like, you know, we advocate for things that can improve life in Louisiana. Our key policy areas that we work on, we organized around these key policy areas. So you join a committee, you can either be a voting member of that committee or just one that goes and learns. It's health and wellness, environment and infrastructure, workforce and higher ed, early education in K through 12, and taxation and economic development, which is my fault probably, but but my CPA friends that I just saw somewhere right around here somewhere, they understand it too. Our goal for this evening is to highlight the candidates and start a policy discussion that can inform our decisions as we work with whoever that next governor is going to be to improve the trajectory of our state. As I said, we're here with the New Orleans Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, and we also want to thank our silver sponsors, the policy team. Where are you? There you go. You got to give yourselves a little hoo-hoo. Come on. Yeah. And Stokes and Associates, who may or may not have the same last name as me. Woo. And at this time, I would also like to extend a real debt of gratitude to Gibbs Construction, who's got 2 tables. Woo! And also the LCPA, because that's my people too. Yeah, there they are. Woo! And at this time, I would like to give a special debt of gratitude to the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. And I'd love to welcome this wonderful woman, Libby Saunier, who is their executive director, and an Ellevate board member, up to the stage to do the introductions of the candidates and tell you a little bit about not higher ed, that's my world, early childhood education. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Libby. And if you want, you can go to the candidates, because they'll be, just press that button and they'll be in the same order.
Good evening. Again, my name is Libby Saunier, and I have the distinct honor of being the Executive Director of the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Ellevate Louisiana, who is much like us, a nonpartisan nonprofit organization. Much like the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children is an independent, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization squarely focused on Louisiana's young children to ensure that a stronger Louisiana starts with successful children. We seek to advance policies based on data and research to ensure young children are ready not only for school, but in life. What we know is that early care and education is an economic driver. We know that ensuring access to early care and education for young children strengthens Louisiana's economy, which quite frankly loses $1.3 billion annually due to the impacts of child care breakdowns on working parents. Early care and education access also helps to reduce the number of working parents who miss work, leave or change jobs, come in late, or leave early because their child care situation is unreliable, unaffordable, inaccessible, or all 3 of those things. Working families benefit from state investment in early care and education, which is a crucial part to the workforce in keeping our economy running by people that are running our economy, such as nursing assistants, cashiers, elementary school teachers, sanitation workers, and construction laborers, among many other jobs in our state. If Louisiana wants to keep unemployment numbers low and make sure that these essential employees do not lose their jobs or leave their jobs, it is critical that the parents have the support that they need to be productive members of the workforce. We know that early care and education saves the state money. When families have access to early care and education, parents go to work or school, and children's developing minds and brains receive the crucial experiences that they need for long-term success. Children who have access to quality early care and education are more likely to enter kindergarten, they're ready to read, they read on grade level at 3rd grade, graduate from high school, attend college, or go receive a post-secondary certificate, and are productive members of the workforce. We at the Louisiana Policy Institute recently released results from a statewide poll showing that nearly 80% of likely Louisiana voters think taking action to ensure more working families have access to affordable quality childcare should be an important priority for our state in 2024. The poll also found that more than 75% of likely voters think Louisiana should do more to support working families. This includes strong bipartisan agreement that providing greater support for working families with young children birth to age 5 is a very good investment of taxpayer money. We've long known that Louisianians from all walks of life care about early care and education as both a workforce and an education issue. More than 80% of those likely voters see expansion of quality early care and education as a winning strategy to support Louisiana's workforce. And more than 90% of those likely voters recognize that increasing access to early care and education supports academic success and social skill development. These results are important because they illustrate that Louisiana voters prioritize the state taking action to ensure more working families have access of affordable, high-quality childcare so that more families live stable, empowered lives. Childcare often represents the largest portion of a family's budget, and childcare breakdowns cost Louisiana businesses over $760 million annually. A child's earliest years are the most crucial years. 90% of brain development happens by age 4. The time is now. The time is now for the next governor of the great state of Louisiana to double down on increasing investments in our young children. We know that the state's budget is a value proposition. Let our next governor show us that our state values young children and their families by increasing investments in early care and education today and into the future. We know that if we go fast at something, we go alone. But if we want to go far, we must go far together. The time is now. We must go far for Louisiana's children, families, and the businesses of our great state to have access to quality early care and education to improve the workforce of today and tomorrow. And so now it is my great pleasure to introduce the candidates for governor that have joined us tonight. And what we want to say is thank you for taking the time to be here and share information with us. Our first candidate is Senator Sharon Hewitt. As you all know, many of y'all know, she is an engineering executive, a local community leader, and a mother. From school board meetings to boardroom meetings, Sharon has spent her life working towards solutions for Louisiana. Hewitt was elected by the state legislature in 2016 and took her common sense approach to Baton Rouge, where she has been a champion for improving education, lowering taxes, and creating high-paying jobs. Sharon, many times, as in tonight, is the only woman in the room. And so she knows, starting early, having grown up in a neighborhood full of boys, she could throw a football or catch a fastball with the best of them. Her parents instilled in her the importance of education and encouraged her to always do her best, regardless of the competition. For Sharon, it was nothing new to be the only woman in most of her mechanical engineering classes at LSU. Following in the footsteps of her father, Sharon is an avid hunter and fisher and is blessed to live in the sportsman's paradise. She and her husband, Steve, have been married for 40 years and have proudly raised 2 sons. Next is Mr. Hunter Lundy, who is from Lake Charles, Louisiana. He is the father of 3 children and grandfather of 5. He earned his law degree in 1980 from the Mississippi College of Law in Jackson, Mississippi, where he was the editor-in-chief of the Law Review, and after graduation, he served 2 years as law clerk to the Honorable Walter L. Nixon, Jr., U.S. District Judge for the Southern District of Mississippi. He returned to Lake Charles in 1981 to practice law, and in 1986, he began the law firm currently known as Lundy, Swallow, and South. He has been chosen by his peers to be listed in the Best Lawyers of America, nominated for the top 100 national trial lawyers, listed in Louisiana Super Lawyers magazine, and most recently listed in the roundtable of the top 50 trial lawyers in America. Treasurer John Schroeder. After serving 9.5 years in the state legislature, Treasurer Schroeder was elected as the state treasurer in 2017 and re-elected in 2019. He is a former narcotics detective and served as a CID special agent in the United States Army. And for the past 30 years, he has worked alongside his wife, as he calls her Miss Ellie, in various businesses. most notably in real estate, home building, and development. Treasurer Schroeder has a deep commitment and devotion to serving others and has been a member of countless service and charitable organizations from Rotary to veterans groups. Currently, the treasurer has the pleasure of being the chairman of the State Bond Commission and a member of more than 35 boards and commissions. I don't know how he has time to do anything with that. Treasurer Schroeder is a graduate of East Jefferson High School, Southeastern Louisiana University. Above all, he is a husband of 38 years, father of 2, and an incredible proud grandfather of 4. And then we have Stephen Wagasback. And somehow I lost those notes, but I know Stephen, so I could do Wags. As we know, Wags is the former CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry in our state and has numerous years of service in the public sector and in state government under Bobby Jindal, and has worked with numerous people across the state. And he is the proud father of 3 boys and is married to Kali. And then we have Sean Wilson, who has 25 years of experience in state government. Most recently, he has served as Louisiana's Secretary of Transportation and Development, a position he held from 2016 until 2023. Sean transformed the agency to be more collaborative and efficient at leveraging resources and delivering services, resulting in groundbreakings on decades of old improvements and multiple infrastructures. He lives in Lafayette with his wife of 27 years, Rocky. Together they have 2 children, Joshua and Sean, and 1 son-in-law, and 2 grandchildren, Layla Rose and Mike III, also known as Pop. So welcome our candidates, and again, thank you for joining us today and talking to our esteemed group.
Well, now you get the fun part before the other fun part, and that's that you actually get to enjoy your meal and hang out, get to know the people at your table if you don't know them yet. I do want to let you know that we did invite the Attorney General, Jeff Landry, and he could not make it tonight. But he will not be here. But we will miss him. At any rate, thank you so much for being here. It really makes my heart feel good to see this many people out and caring about Louisiana and caring that we make the right decision in our state. So eat, drink, and be happy, and we'll wake you up in a little bit. Thanks, guys. righty, guys. Huh? Wait, what? Where? Hey, guys, we need a doctor. Somebody's choking. We need a doctor. Is there a doctor? Oh, we're okay? Whew. Now you know, it ain't Louisiana politics unless you got some drama. Are you okay over there? All right, woo. All right, good. All right. Yeah, we don't want to have that. Hey, we need our photographer. Come on. And we need all the candidates to come up because it is time. And when you guys come up, Sharon Hewitt, you'll be first, and then Hunter, and then Schroeder. We're going to go in alphabetical order from there to there. You're very heavy toward the end of the alphabet, candidates.
We'll alphabetize ourselves.
You can do that.
You want us left and right or right to
You're there.
All right.
No, you're all the way there. Yeah, save your best for last, right?
Should I have this?
They can turn the lights on in here. Where we going? Alphabetical order? I think you're right there. No?
All right. Is this mic on? Is it on?
Testing.
Very low.
Underline.
Can y'all hear? Yeah, that's a little bit better, huh? I'm gonna have to get real close to it. All right. We are going to go ahead and start our official event. Have all 5 of you up there. So welcome back. All of our candidates are with us, and we are going to give each of them our undivided attention and eat. You know, I think there might be a little bit of service going back and forth, but we'll be just about done with that. So all of the candidates are going to have 2 minutes to introduce themselves to you, and we're going to work from Senator Hewitt at the first podium. We got everybody in alphabetical order, and you can go ahead with a 2-minute introduction. Oh, and yes, would like to say my apologies for not giving you all the questions ahead of time. I could have done that, but I did not know.
How many questions you got?
Apparently they do that. I'm an auditor, though. I like to surprise people.
We noticed.
Sorry about that. All right, so Senator Sharon Hewitt.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me tonight. You know, I was kind of having deja vu when I walked into this hotel, and I'll tell you this quick story. You know, I worked for Shell for a very long time right next door, One Shell Square. And I had an assignment one year where I was literally working 100 hours a week. And sometimes it was too late to drive home back to Slidell. And so I would keep one change of clothes and a little bag of toiletries in the car, and I would walk over here to the Intercontinental and spend the night. Well, it was only a couple of hours usually of sleep, and so I would walk in with my little clothes and my little bag, and I know they thought that I was a lady of the evening because and I did that for a whole year. I never told anybody what the deal was. I just let them wonder, but I was having flashbacks as I walked in. Oh my gosh. That is not in my resume. Y'all are the first ones to ever hear that. But you know what? That is just an example of doing whatever it takes to get the job done. And I have done that my whole life. I mean, you know my story. You heard the intro. You know, I worked in a very male-dominated field. Politics is very much that way. And it was never about, you know, trying to prove anything or anything. I mean, I just was good at math and science, and I just wanted to be an engineer. And I have spent my time in the legislature encouraging women to do the same thing. Not for everybody to be an engineer, but to know that there are no limits to what you can do. And that we want to all be having, I want everybody to have equal opportunities to do what makes them happy, right? To find their potential, to do everything that they can do. And so that is basically how I will lead as governor. As someone that wants the best out of everyone, whether we're talking about our youngest learners our senior citizens, and everybody in between. I want the very best Louisiana we can be. And I think that Louisiana citizens deserve the very best that we can be. And so I look forward to your questions, and thanks again, Julie, for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, and now on to Hunter Lundy.
Yes, I'm Hunter Lundy from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and grew up there, graduated from LaGrange High School, started McNeese, and then later transferred to Millsaps College. I played football at Millsaps. When I finished my senior year, I had an offer to go coach football, but I had an uncle talk me into going to law school, said, why don't you go to law school? So I went to law school, and I finished, and then I worked for a federal judge, and then I moved back to Lake Charles. And I worked for an old established firm. Actually, it was the Governor Jones's firm. He was the last governor from Southwest Louisiana 70 years ago. And then in 1986, I started my own law firm, in which we grew the law firm to where we had offices in many states. And I advocated for people all over America. And so I was gifted with some skills and determination and persistence and hard work that my father had put in me. He worked on the waterfront and Port of Lake Charles for 50 years. My mother was a kindergarten teacher, and then she taught at the college level. My sister's a retired kindergarten teacher. My daughter is a high school teacher now. She's at the community college teaching. So I come from a family of educators. My grandfather moved from Mississippi to Louisiana. He was a football coach that became a Boy Scout executive. That's my background. So I've been in the law for the last 40 years. Done many things, helped a lot of people from all walks of life, but I have some advocacy skills. I think that I'll be a great governor for the state of Louisiana. Still have a lot of energy, and will do whatever I can do. Yes, I have a 91-year-old mother who's still living, and she's living independently, and so things are good. I have 3 grown children. One's a fire captain, one's the teacher, the other one's a ship captain. They all finished schools in Louisiana. They're all living in Louisiana, and I'll have to correct the introduction. I have 6 grandchildren now, not 5. The last one was born on the 4th of July. So my youngest son has 3 boys, and my daughter has a 16-year-old high school student, and my son has 2 in middle, 1 in middle and 1 high school. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Treasurer John Schroeder.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to skip through the I's and these and those. You can see all that. I think most of you know all of us by now. We've done this about 48 times by ourselves. Mine is 5 minus 1. I don't need to mention his name. But look, so I'm going to just start with this. I appreciate what you do. I've been state treasurer now for 6 years. This past year, we managed about $60 billion. This year is going to be about, current fiscal year is going to be in the $40+ billion range. The first hire I made when I was state treasurer, I brought in what I thought was a power woman to be my first assistant. My second hire was another power woman who is third in command. And then my fourth hire was somebody that I snatched from the Attorney General's office as my chief of staff. So 4 out of my top 5 people who make good money at Treasury are women. Now, I learned, because I've been married for 38 years, and my CEO is sitting in the back, and I say that, but I'm serious. When I joke with Hunter, we talk about career politicians. Ladies and gentlemen, I've done my career. I'm a real estate developer, broker. Ellie and I have been in just about every small business. We've been building houses for the last, I don't know, since I've been in high school, been involved in the construction business. And then I decided to get in politics and spend my senior years, I guess, as a 62-year-old, giving back to the state of Louisiana. I lost my first career when my retina hemorrhaged. I was a professional in law enforcement. My degree was in criminal justice. Got into small business for over 32, almost 33 years, ran for state treasurer, and here I am. What I bring to the table is a little different, and you do get something different from all of us. I represent the 85th percentile. My wife's a school teacher. I was a police officer. I never made what some of these guys have made off of a salary in any business that I've been in. That means stop. I'll finish up in a little bit.
Oh, and next up, we have Stephen Wagaspack.
Thank you. Like John, I think you all can either look up our bios, you've heard our bios, or you can just wait till the attack ad on me. You can hear one version of my bio. But the truth is, I'm going to tell you the why I'm in this race, why I stepped down from a really good job and to put every chip on the hat on the table to run for Louisiana's governor. I'm worried. I'm worried about Louisiana's future. And if you think about groups like this that have gotten together for months and years and talked about great ideas, and Julie and her team have brought people together and brainstormed ideas, and we all know there's a lot of problems in Louisiana. We always know there's a lot of solutions there, but we have never put solutions first in this state. And politics has always been what's been first, because it's interesting, it's funny. We've had charismatic leaders, and they made us laugh, and ha, 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 even though they were taking money out of our pockets. We laughed along the way, and it was enough, because in the old
Those are the issues that I will lead as governor when we all work together and talk about these solutions. So thank you all for having me tonight.
Thank you so much, everyone. We'll now begin with questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their answer, and if a follow-up question is needed, each candidate would have 20 seconds to answer that follow-up question. I'm going to go ahead and start with Senator Hewitt again and work our way so that one of you guys is going to be the first one to answer each question in succession. So Senator Hewitt, but the question is for everyone. Political polarization, which is something that this group cares about a whole lot, has reached an all-time high in our nation and in our state. Whoever is called upon to lead our state over the next 4 years should be one that can work across party aisles. What is one issue that you can think of where the opposite party might have an idea that you can work with that might vary from what people might expect to come from you? This is where I should have probably sent them the questions first. It's that auditor instinct, though.
Well, listen, thanks for the question, Julie. And yeah, I think that's the first time I've been asked that question. But I think that the issues that I am campaigning on and the work that I've done in the legislature really crosses party lines. You know, when you're talking about a better education for your kids and you're talking about early education from birth to 4, that has nothing to do with Democrats or Republicans or white or black or any kind of demographic. It's good for all families. And those are the things that I have tried to focus on. You will not see in my legislative record any bills where I'm going to say I was a grenade thrower, right? All the culture war stuff, I don't file those bills. Those are not the things that I think are what's holding our state back. What's holding our state back is a trained workforce, a better education, safe neighborhoods, an affordable cost of living, low, affordable insurance, zero state income tax. Those are the things I have legislated on, and I have an extensive legislative record. And those are the things I'm going to focus on as governor.
Thank you. Hunter Lundy?
I'm the only candidate in this race that's an independent that can talk to anybody. You'll get the same old with any of these other candidates in this race. If you ask me about a specific question, I was under the Claiborne Street ramp earlier talking to the homeless today. The homeless is an example of somebody that we can help regardless of what party it is. We need to rebuild the buildings that were ruined during the general administration for health care. We need wraparound for these people. Mental illness is a real factor. So mental illness is nothing more than extreme anxiety or extreme depression of people. These people, I talked to a guy, he was a captain in the Air Force. He's living homeless. So we can work regardless of party, and we can do that. If we attack poverty, like I've said from day one, and we do it with education, we change the economy. The perception of the rest of the country on Louisiana changes. So we grow our economy. We attack poverty. We reduce crime.
Thank you. Treasurer Schroeder?
You know, one of the major reasons I'm running is because I understand money. My degrees, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. My master's and PhD comes from the School of Hard Knocks. I know what the 85 percentile go through every day. As I was saying earlier, school teacher, police officer. Our first home, trailer in the sugarcane fields, we slept on a mattress in a trailer. I know what you have to do to get up every day and go to work. And that's the majority of citizens in this state. I would tell you that's not represented very well in Baton Rouge. It's not represented at all. So as we talk about jobs and all these things, guess what? Most of the people in Baton Rouge don't know what Ellie and I went through to get where we are today. And I don't know the backgrounds of all these folks. I asked Hunter for a donation earlier because he's got a lot of money. You know? But look, honestly, I challenge anybody, because I'm running out of time. Look, pull out $1 out of your pocket and tell me if it says Republican or Democrat on it. I'm the money guy. Crosses all party lines.
Stephen Wagasback.
Hunter, you cutting checks, dude?
No, he said no.
Commercials aren't cheap, man. I'll take one of those. Look, the big takeaway, look, the last 7 months I've learned a lot driving around the state, talking to folks. I would say just on the question itself, guys, there's so much more that we all have in common, but we have not even heard it because politics keeps everyone in a bunker. So bipartisanship happens organically if you start listening to people, okay? Now, the other piece is to get to specific to the issues. I do think mental health is the one thing that has to be attacked with vigor. You hear it on the back end of the system. You hear it in the kindergarten, first grade, second grade system. We have to change the accountability system to literally incentivize schools to bring in mental health partners. Teachers are cracking. They can't handle it. And if you ever want to fight crime, you ever want to fill jobs, you have to attack mental health. So I think that's probably the bipartisan thing you're talking about there. The other thing is the Medicaid expansion. Look, I'm going to continuance the easy choice. The question is, how do you put incentives in the program to improve access? Because having access to services that aren't any good doesn't help you. You need access to services that can move the needle, and that's what we got to work on. So,
Dr. Sean Wilson.
The specifics of the question are what both parties are doing, or what can you take from the other party. And I will tell you, the one thing I think both parties will do but fail to implement effectively is talk about real solutions that are possible. Both parties will come with ideas, but you end up losing it in the political process. And so if you really want to affect these issues of elementary education and early childhood education, it's going to start with making the right kinds of budget decisions. Let's be honest and tell the truth about where our money comes from, where we're spending it, and how much we're going to get, and what happens if we don't have it. And we're making decisions in terms of risks out there in the future that we don't know about, and then we're going to be constitutionally limited to cut the things that are most important to us: education, healthcare, and public safety. Remember those things I said earlier: safer, smarter, and healthier. Let's start making decisions around the financial investments of this state that are based on data and facts and are sustainable. Otherwise, both parties are going to lose, and that is what you need, is a leader that's going to have these substantive conversations to address these issues.
Thank you. So question number 2, we will start with Hunter Lundy. And the question is, there's a lot of talk in this campaign season about crime. For the first time in 20 years, crime tops the list of Louisianans' concerns. In the 2023 Louisiana survey, 4 out of 5 Louisiana residents say that crime has increased over the last few years. 1/4 of state residents report that they were the victim of a property crime within the past year, and 15% report they were attacked or threatened with violence. In your opinion, what is driving this increase in crime, and what would you do to combat it?
Well, I indicated that poverty is a real problem, and most of your drug dealing takes place in your blighted and your poverty areas. If we take on this poverty in the state of Louisiana, we're going to reduce our crime. So 2 days ago, I walked Angola with the warden and with Andrew Hunley, since I've known him since he was 14 years old. And so I understand what incarceration can be. We have to hold everybody accountable, but we also have to believe in redemption. And so we can go after our young people who are committing the crimes. We can do what New York did in the 90s when they did the window breaker program. We can go after them, and then we can get them, and we can find out who's giving them the guns. They'll get the hard criminals off there. I'm not a grenade thrower. I heard that used. I'm not going to put the names of DAs and sheriffs and law enforcement and mayors and any kind of campaign. Yes, I do put my money where my mouth is. And so I've invested to win this race because I love Louisiana and I love people. We can reduce crime in Louisiana by reducing poverty and using education. Thank you.
So as I said in my beginning comments, my first professional career was in law enforcement. I have a degree in criminal justice. A retina hemorrhage in my right eye ended that career when I was about 29 years old. I've said my last prayer before. I was an undercover narcotics agent. Law enforcement is about prevention. It's really about deterring it, preventing it, and having a good investment in mental health. But mental health starts very early, because if you wait till they commit the crime, you're late. You have to stop it before. Many nights I spent on the streets preventing the drug deals, not arresting people, putting lights up on streets and neighborhoods. You have to be proactive, but you need to have relationships, you have to have partnerships, and you have to have the resources. And you have to work together. The governor has to be partners with the mayors. They have to be partners with the chiefs and the sheriffs. And everybody has to be pulling in the same direction. We have to share resources. But this is very, very possible. You could put a dent in this in 30 days, and that's a promise. That's coming from somebody who knows it and has done it.
I think there's long-term and short-term. Long-term, education, training, jobs, everything that you know. But look, another piece of that government can't fix. You need more involved parenting, to be honest with you. You need to be taught some of these fundamental respect, morals in the household. We got to find a way to convince people to take parenting more seriously. Hard to do for government, but we're never going to solve it if we don't do that. In the short term, I do think we need more law enforcement, and they have to be trained appropriately. Right now, because inflation has driven up wages, it's hard to recruit people. Some of the hires have been people that wouldn't have made the cut over the last several years. You have to bring folks in, train them robustly. They know how to handle those situations. You have to invest in technology to prove cases because people are scared to testify. Technology can help prove that. Third thing is we have a mental health crisis for the juveniles. There are juvenile offenders where we have nowhere to bring them. And so you have to create these regional facilities that, yes, can take kids off the street that are committing violent crimes, but also once they're detained, retrain. Whether it's GED, drug treatment, mental health, whatever it takes, you have to create some type of solution because right now catch and release is not working.
To answer your question, the causes are illiteracy, economic crisis, mental health, crime. All of these things contribute to crime. The most important thing we could do is make sustainable investments to address these things. It's going to start with investing in early childhood education because that child will be better prepared K through 12 and less likely to move into delinquent model. Look at our literacy of our folks who are imprisoned. Let's create a workforce where we train people, do reentry programs so that when they do get out, and they will get out, that they have an opportunity to be a taxpayer and not a tax burden. The difference is who's going to lead on that. Jeff Landry will tell you we can lock people up and that's going to be the answer, and that's not going to be the answer. We've got 25,000 people in jail and we're one of the most unsafe states in America because of that approach. Let's be thoughtful and invest resources in people. Let's use technology in a smart way. Let's work to collaborate with local government and the entire justice sector. Let's work with our faith-based communities, our nonprofits, to really get in and do the kinds of interventions that we need to do before it becomes a problem. That's the difference between me and Jeff in terms of who's going to lead and who's going to do the traditional thing.
I agree with Dr. Wilson. You know, Landry is the top cop, and he's been around for 8 years. He's done nothing to attack crime. So what are you waiting on? Look, I think crime, there are so many issues that address crime. One, of course, we have to have more boots on the ground. We're about 75% staff right now in terms of sheriff and police and state police. So we have to find better ways to pay them and to retain and to recruit them. Mental health, we haven't hit the tip of the iceberg in terms of funding for mental health. I'm very excited about a pilot program happening in St. Tammany right now where a mental health professional goes out with the first responders dispatched to a crime scene or whatever so that they get right to the right mental health professional instead of going to jail or the ER. I hope that that's something we can scale statewide. Drugs is another big issue. I had legislation this year to address the fentanyl crisis. And so I think those are some of the things that we need to address the crime problem.
Thank you. So this next question will start with Mr. Schroeder. In 2019, the legislature passed comprehensive criminal justice reforms. Many experts on both sides of the aisle agreed that they were good moves for a state that, I was surprised to learn, had the highest incarceration rate in the U.S., which had the highest incarceration rate in the world. For the last 4 years, we have seen countless attacks on those who voted for those reforms. In your opinion, are those reforms contributing to the high crime rates that we are seeing in our state? And if you believe that some of them might be, do any specific reforms need to be rolled back? And it starts with Schroeder.
Look, I believe prison is made for dangerous people. Ladies and gentlemen, when you are going to your dinners and doing whatever you're doing, you're looking at the guy that was on the wall, chasing bad guys. I came up under Ronald Reagan, who was my commander-in-chief, fighting the drug wars on the street. He coined the phrase, the war on drugs. Do you know what the war on drugs was in the early 80s? Like drinking water out of the Mississippi 1 cup at a time. It hadn't changed much. But this is really just about leadership. This is about who has the experience, who understands it. It's going to take things on all fronts, from education, but the prisons, we have a lot of criminals in Louisiana. We need to face the music on that, But mental health is a problem because we have a lot of drug users in our prisons, all right? So it isn't all about, guys like me, we didn't go to work every night to put people in jail. That wasn't our goal, and it's not their goal. But mental health is a severe problem that has to be addressed because we have too many drug users in our prisons and they need mental health.
I think on the reforms, like anytime you tackle a big reform, you have to be confident enough to say it's been a mixed bag. There's some good and bad from it. We have to be honest with that. Here's one of the downside I hear when you talk to law enforcement and DAs on the front lines. People that used to go into drug court. What drug court's very successful. It's expensive but successful. It's an 18-month program. Back in the day before the reform, someone get arrested, they'd take drug court. For 18 months, they had to go get tested. If they tested clean, their record was wiped. It was a valid option delivered at the state level that was growing. With the reforms and the mandatory maximums at 6 months, what's happening now is if you get picked up, first offense, fifth offense, didn't matter on drugs, you spend like 2 months in local jail before you get your court hearing. By the time you get done, you've got 4 months left. Everyone's saying no to drug court. Why would they say yes to 18 months of clean when all they got to do is serve more, get back out and go back to using? So we're not cleaning people up. The intent of the reforms were to clean people up, and there's some unintended consequences there. So we have to find those unintended consequence gaps, close them. Because if you're not cleaning people up, it's not the intent of the reforms, and we have to be confident enough to say some things need to be tweaked in order to make them more effective.
Criminal justice reform was a bipartisan effort that still has yet to be fully implemented. No, I do not think that it is the cause of the increase in the spike in crime. And let's recognize the fact that this spike did not happen overnight. It's happened over the last 7 years. And look at the chief law enforcement officer who was at the helm to be responsible for doing that failed to do it. Yes, we need to make things work. We need to fully implement a policy, and Louisiana has a bad history of always undoing something before we actually complete it. Look at all of the education reforms. Look at the financial reforms. Everything that we've talked about, we go undo it because we aren't committed to the sustainable impact that it has. Let's fully implement it and make tweaks along the way, because that is what a business does. That is what a mother does in her household, is make changes as those changes are needed, but they don't get rid of all the children. They discipline them. They fix it. They provide parameters and measures to make sure that they work. That's what we have to do in government. We need more juvenile assessment centers. We need more reentry programs. We need to make the financial investments to make better people and to prevent folks from getting in that place in the first time.
I voted for the 2017 reforms, and I don't remember the top cop being anywhere in the discussion, oh, by the way. But he's doing a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking right now. And here's where I am on that issue. You know, we put together reentry programs. It was all about nonviolent offenders, right? And giving them reentry programs so that they got new job skills and new education skills so that they could start a new life when they left, not go back to their old ways. And those were supposed to be based on evidence-based programs. Well, you all know, those of you that are professionals in this room, right? You can't just have a program and assume it's going to work, because you have to implement it with fidelity. And we have done a terrible job in capturing the data to really analyze what's working and what's not. Those programs that are working, let's double down on those investments. Those programs that aren't, let's eliminate those. We can do a better job. It's been 6 years. We need the data, and we can tackle this problem.
I'll answer the question. Yes, we've benefited from the program that was implemented in 2017. Yes, we've benefited. Anything that I would change, I would say let's consider a 17-year-old as an adult. These kids have been impacted by COVID and the things that happened in the state, that you've seen crimes occur with 14, 15, 16-year-olds. We've got to reach out to the young people, and we can reach the older people who are giving the guns to the younger people. These kids in New Orleans, all over the shooting, there was somebody shot yesterday. And we got to reach that problem when we get those children and we rehab them and they go back. Yes, we have a great program at Angola. Look at the parole project. They've had 400 people come out of Angola. They've had 2 recidivisms, 2 that went back, 2. That program works. So rehabilitation works. And that's what we need to keep our heart and minds on. And this program that Governor John Bel Edwards entered has been beneficial.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Stephen Wagasmack. Louisiana has one of the lowest workforce participation rates in the country at 58.5%. If 63% of Louisianans participated in the workforce, which is the median across all 50 states, the result would be approximately 100,000 additional people in our workforce, which I think would make a big difference to our economic development efforts. What would you do to close that gap and empower more of our citizens to enter the workforce? And very importantly, how would you pay for it?
So it's one of the biggest issues we face right now, those that are adult age working population choosing not to seek work. It's a huge issue. There's one big major launch point that we're missing, though, and I think it's the high school redesign that needs to happen in Louisiana. Over the years in Louisiana, we have graded and pushed and put accountability systems on high schools saying you have to put every kid into a four-year college or that is a failure. That is not reflective of today's economy. That is not reflective of the needs of the children we're facing today, and is putting unfair and unrealistic burdens on high schools that they cannot meet. And so I want to change that accountability system and put incentives in the formula to reward high schools for properly placing kids on their pathway to prosperity. If you're going to a four-year college or a two-year college or straight to the workforce, it's all a good answer. But we're going to figure that out in 9th and 10th grade. We're going to incentivize school to bring in the regional partners, start buying down the cost of that post-secondary credential or that apprenticeship in high school so that you can launch from there into high school into those job programs. I think teaching those kids that there is a pathway for them, it doesn't have to go through a four-year college, is a big piece of solving that gap.
In order to get a job, you have to be able to read, write, do the math, and communicate. And look at the educational outcomes that we've had in Louisiana for decades. We have not trained our folks exceptionally well. We have constantly changed policies over and over again, from LEAP to having the third grade literacy accountability law that was just passed. We have to train folks and prepare them to go into the workforce. And we also have to diversify our workforce, get more into manufacturing and not be based solely in the petrochemical world, not just in the cultural tourism world. We have to look at the staples, like education. The fewest teachers we've had going into education. The fewer teachers are graduating and staying in that profession. The idea of retraining our workforce today is not going to necessarily grow it because you're going to have the same people getting other jobs. We have to create those opportunities and invest in education long-term to make that. This is not going to be an issue that's going to be done in 4 years. Let no one tell you that they can fix it tomorrow and get to that 63% employment. We have to make the investments and be committed to it in the long haul, and that's where you're going to start to see those sustainable changes.
Julie, we have 185,000 open jobs right now in Louisiana. And so we have to do a better job of identifying what those jobs are and the skills that those employers need and those industries that we want to attract. And then how do we build the education pipeline to fill that so that our kids get those good high-paying jobs and stay right here in Louisiana. And our employers can hire people right here from Louisiana and not have to go out of state to bring people in for these good jobs. The single biggest workforce gap right now is computer science. We have to triple the number of computer science graduates in the next 5 years just to meet the current forecasted demand. So I have done work already in the legislature. I'm not going to wait till I'm governor to start working on these issues. I have passed bills that say we're going to have computer science curriculum in kindergarten through 12th grade. We are offering computer coding now in high school as a choice for a foreign language. That's how you attack the workforce gap, is by identifying your gap and then building the education pipeline so that our kids get those jobs.
So we'll start from the beginning. We have to make the investment in our children when they're 3 years old. 80% of the brain is formed at 3, 90% at 4. So we have to really do that, and we have to have these children incentivized, and they have to have teachers that are there and counselors that know who they are. 70% of the children that go to public schools come from economically deprived households in Louisiana. 70%. So we have to get on the ball, but we work with them young. If we don't, if they can't read and write by the 3rd or 4th grade, they're in the pipeline to prison. And we don't want them to go get the education in prison. We want to get them now, so we get them doing it. So we still have 23 parishes that don't have STEM programs. We're still lacking broadband around the state, but we have a huge grant to do that. We're going to have everything accessible. 80% of the jobs in Louisiana do not require a college education. 80%, so we can have children come out of high school and be certified to have a good job. We got to get this, and I'm the candidate that says we got to raise the minimum wage, not because it hadn't been effectively raised, but because we got to give people hope. And I'll share more of that when I have more time. Thank you.
He may be the candidate, but Ellie and I are the ones who pay it. We haven't paid minimum wage in the last 20 years. Look, the majority of our jobs are blue-collar jobs, y'all. You don't have to go to college. Our painters are making $20 to $25 an hour, okay? We have a tremendous immigrant population that's in the construction industry. They need to be taught how to speak English. They need to be taught how to pay their taxes. They need to be taught how to handle their finances. We are the most financially illiterate state in the nation, which some legislation was passed this year to make high school students take a class now in financial literacy. We spend so much time talking about STEM and all this stuff. That's all important stuff. We're a poor, blue-collar state. And if we're going to change, we need to address where we are today, or we're never going to get to tomorrow. We're there every day. I see it every single day in our businesses. That's where the majority of our jobs, 52% of our jobs are in small business. That means you're 30 to 90 days from being out of business. So we spend a lot of time on way up here, but man, I'm worried about where we are today and how do we take the population we have today and the poor parishes we have today and let them go to work so they can feed their families. Sorry, Julie.
Thank you. So this next question, we'll start with Dr. Wilson, and it really visits the workforce issue again. Quality childcare is a vital support for working families. However, quality childcare is not accessible to many working parents. According to a recent study from the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children, almost half of Louisiana parents of young children worry about being unable to afford childcare. At the same time, the Louisiana economy loses over $1.3 billion a year due to child care breakdowns. If that weren't enough, quality child care is also crucial to long-term learning success, with 90% of brain development occurring before age 4. Currently, an estimated 114,000 economically disadvantaged children in Louisiana lack access to quality early care and education. If elected, what sources of funding would you use to increase access to quality early care and education for Louisiana's working families so our kindergartners entering school are ready to succeed? What sources of funding?
Great question. You actually have to look at the budget we have today. We give away $6 billion a year in credits, exemptions, and rebates, but constantly talk about these social issues, these things that we need to be investing in. We're debating right now whether or not we should repeal 0.45 cent sales tax. I say let's keep it and let's fund those things that matter, like early childhood education. Let's fund teacher salaries and not one-time items. Put it in the formula and use that money to help create it. We had a $2 billion surplus, and we could not give a recurring raise to teachers and public employees and firemen and police officers. Let's make the kinds of investments in our workforce training. Let's build higher education and universities with the resources, because we can give away all this money and still have those problems. And guess what? You're not going to grow your economy by running people away. You have to make these investments. Governments require an investment, and it's going to give you a return on that investment. And that return on that investment is a more literate society, bigger investments, saving that $1 billion on early childhood education that we lose. It makes good sense. Let's prioritize it and spend our money appropriately.
Look, quality early care and education is one of the most stressful things you do as a parent. Don't you worry about that for your kids and your grandkids? You're working and you're worried about making sure that your kids are getting the very best situation possible. And it's getting more expensive. You know, because child care providers are having to pay insurance costs, which we know are sky high, right? They can't get enough staff, and so that's a problem. And so they're limiting the number of slots. It is a huge issue. And so we do need to do a better job of funding it and providing some incentives for those business owners to be able to operate. I have spent the last 5 years leading a task force to eliminate dedicated funds. We have about $4 billion in our budget dedicated to about 400 ridiculous dedicated funds, like the Boll Weevil Fund. The way I'm going to fund early education is to get rid of those dedicated funds like Governor Romer did, except for a couple of the really important ones, and dedicate that money to early education because that's where our money needs to be going.
There was some child care assistance passed just recently to help mothers. We've got to help mothers. There's 800,000 single parent families in Louisiana, 800,000. Many of you are in this room. And my daughter's one. She's got a 16-year-old, but she went through child care. She had that. I've got a son that has 3 little ones. So we know we've got to make it a priority. We can't have a legislature that met this past year and they thought they agreed, and then the last 6 of them got together and came up, nobody knew what was in the budget. Again, I'm the independent in this race. We can't play the games that we're playing that the United States is playing right now, and it's trickled down into the legislature in Louisiana. We've got to be smart. And yes, I'm going to vote to renew the 0.45 cents tax. We got to pay our teachers. We got to pay our law enforcement. We got to pay our firemen, and we got to build our roads. Our roads are the second worst in the country. So why do you have insurance rates that are high? Our roads are terrible.
So this is when I get a little fired up. M-O-N-E-Y. The whole building revolves around money. I spent probably the first 6 years of my legislative career trying to get one bill passed. I don't need to tell y'all who the governor was. It was to tell the administration that you couldn't spend one-time money on recurring expenses. You cannot use your credit card to pay your house note, ladies and gentlemen. And to the senator's point, many of those dedicated funds come with dedicated money. The fund goes away, so does the money. The Boll Weevil, you take the Boll Weevil fund away, the farmers don't give you the money. You don't get their money too unless you dedicate the funds. I've worked on that for 4 years back in 2008 through 11. There's no new ideas, ladies and gentlemen. We need leadership, people who understand how money fundamentally works. 1 + 1 is 2. It doesn't equal 3. It doesn't equal 1.5. Okay? So you either get somebody to be the governor who does it, who has done it every day, who has jobs, created jobs in this state, who's invested their own money, because everybody else just talks about all this nice policy stuff. It sounds great, but have they actually ever done it day in, day out, Monday through Saturday?
So I was proud to be part of a team in 2012 that worked hard to pass Act 3 at the time, which created the modern accountability system for the early education system and the providers that we're talking about right now, because having access to a place is different than having access to a place that delivers high-quality services for your child. It has to be quality. The second thing, when it comes to stat deads, I don't like them either, okay? But I got a new one to create. Libby, we had this conversation. I came up with an idea I think I like. Okay, I think the state is going to move to an education savings account model. I want to pass that. I want to help low-income families, special needs families, any families that have a child that's being bullied, give them an education savings account so they can opt to take up to 90, maybe 85% of the state dollars we pay, and they can go to a different place. That leaves a saving of every child that does that to about 10 to 15% of that MFP dollar. I want to put that in an early education fund. And every dollar we save on an ESA goes into a fund to put systemic investment into early education, because I think 10 years from now, parents will be demanding choice. By that point in time, you're going to have a big funding stream that's going to be tots for tots, basically. It's going to have the dollars in there for early education people, and finally we'll have a way to pay for this much needed enterprise of early education.
All right, so we're back to Senator Hewitt with our next question. On average, teachers in child care centers in Louisiana earn $12.96 an hour, and I think somewhat if they're lucky, because I do think it can go lower than that, with minimal benefits, about half the salary of a kindergarten teacher. Low wages in this profession continue contribute to higher turnover, which affects the quality of care children receive. What is your plan to improve workforce development, compensation, and benefits of the early childhood workforce?
Well, it does always come down to money, right? And what better place to invest money than in the quality education and care of your children, your youngest learners? And it's the same with the teachers. You know, the fact that we don't pay our teachers and we're not paying our early education leaders enough money is kind of ridiculous when you want the very best for your children, and that's exactly what we all do want. And so it does come down to money, it comes down to priorities, and it comes down to funding. You know, we passed a bill this year for $44 million. It was like a record-setting investment in early education. We did some significant work the year before, and so I think that there's growing support within the legislature and recognition the importance of funding. We also have longitudinal data that shows that children that go through an early education program are much more likely to graduate from high school in Louisiana than those who don't. And so the data for me, of course, is a big turning point because it is demonstrating the investment is worth it. And I think that, again, it's just a matter of priorities for the legislature.
So I'm the only candidate in this race that signed the front side of a check for 36 years. Had offices in 4 and 5 states. At one point in time, an overhead month was $500,000 a month. So I do understand business well. I've been a developer, yes. I've been an advocate too. And so I've never paid anybody minimum wage in 36 years. I've never paid an employee, a runner, a high school runner, minimum wage. We've always paid them more. We make this early childhood education a priority, which we have to do. We make it a priority. It decreases recidivism. It changes the economy. We have children that can read and write, and we have to pay the child care providers a good wage. And, you know, $12.96 can be raised. The economy has driven up. The effective minimum wage is now $12, $14, $15 an hour. The effect of it. We just need to pass a higher minimum wage for the hope of people. It's a decision to make hope, give somebody hope. Mothers that have second jobs don't need to go make $7.25 an hour. But back to the child care, it's a priority.
So Hunter's right, he's got me beat by 4 years because he's just older than me. I think he sort of looks older than me too. Look, let's talk some numbers for a second. I tell him that all the time. He can handle it. Louisiana's got 4.6 million people.
He's trying to keep you from talking about it.
4.6 million people, 2 million on Medicaid, 900,000 people on Medicare. Do the quick math. Almost 60% is on some federal insurance. That's a problem. We're not going to get out of that with some new policy. This is a generational problem. 4.6 million people, okay? So this is really about how do we stop the bleeding and how do we fix the pipeline coming into it, okay? It's critical that you have a governor and a first lady that's done it. I'm asking you to let me do it for the whole state. We've already done it. It works. It will work. My glass is half full. I don't think Louisiana's all that bad, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be standing here.
You know, John was saying Hunter's older than him. But, you know, since Richie Nelson dropped out, I'm the young guy up here now. It just dawned on me when I saw that. Okay, look, this is where the free market guy in me comes out, because yes, wages must be inflated, and in Louisiana for a gazillion years, that means run to the Capitol, hire lobbyists, and get higher wages. Guys, we have to trust markets a little bit. We have to create a market. Every family's dying for early education, child care. We have to create a market to raise these wages, and that's why I like this ESA approach, because the more I'm shoving families out with resources to find these providers, that will allow us to create a market where more people want to come into this system, and I think that's the best way to do it over time, because if you just depend on state government to inflate wages, what happens when there's a deficit? They go cut the wages again, and then you get into the roller coaster. Healthy states in the South that are winning Texas and Florida and Tennessee and others, they do it with healthy growing markets. That's how wages inflate. That's the small market, free market guy in me that feels like that's the best way to get this systemic.
My wife's been in education 23 years. She didn't make $50,000 until 5 years ago when she became an assistant principal. That's laughable. You want to know why? Because she spent twice as much as what she makes a year just to go to school for 2 years to get a master's degree. We've got to address the priorities. And listen, we've talked about it. I've shared with you the thing that makes me unique is that I'm going to use the resources we have to address the issues we have. We can talk about early childhood education, and we made a sizable investment, but we're going to serve fewer kids this year. Think about that. We're going to serve fewer kids. If we want to have those kinds of outcomes, let's pay our teachers. Let's index it to go with inflation so that you can keep up and catch up at the same time. It's important for us to do that. And unless we make those commitments, we're a poor state. We've got a poverty issue. And so giving money away, creating that workforce is not going to be easy. If you want to learn a lot about a community and a state, look at how they take care of their children and their seniors. Look at how they take care of their children and their seniors. We can do better than that, but it's going to take leadership and courage to make those kinds of commitments.
All right, so this next one, we will start with Hunter Lundy. Continuing in the topic of workforce development, earlier this year, Commissioner Kim Hunter-Reid told us that the Board of Regents' goal has been to get credentials of value in the hands of 60% of our adult population by the year 2030. Presently, the percentage that hold credentials of value is only 49.5%. However, this is an all-time high for Louisiana. This was actually a record, and last year at 48%, it was a record. Programs as such as the MJ Foster Promise that provide a free or low-cost pathway to those credentials have been a large part of the solution, assisting many to obtain those short-term credentials that can help them to work in well-paying fields quickly. The program is currently over-applied, so that means that there are more people hungering for those credentials than we have the capacity financially to provide. What would you do to increase access to those credentials for those that are needed in our workforce, and how would you pay for it? How would you pay for it? Y'all know me. I always want to know how you're going to pay for it.
Well, I'm not a CPA. Many of you are in here. But, you know, I do have a priority, and it's about priority. And anytime we can advance people education-wise, put them in give them a credential or give them an opportunity to do better in life, we should make that a priority. And so we can, again, the 0.45 renewal is good. Again, we're still trying to figure out what was taken out of the budget at the end of this past session. We know all the little pet projects were in there. As the next governor, that will not happen. We will not let a legislature close out without everybody knowing what's in the budget. So we have the money. When you got a $45 billion budget, we can find money to take care of credentials, educators. Right now we got Red River Parish starts their teachers at $64,000 a year. St. Helena Parish starts them at $30-something thousand a year. So we can pay our teachers at $50-something thousand starting pay across the board if we'll do it. It comes down to priorities for all of these credentials, these educational process for our children and so forth. Education is my #1 priority.
Education, education, education. I mean, look, it is about prioritizing it, but it is also about what I said earlier, M-O-N-E-Y. Yeah, our budget's $44 billion. I'm the state treasurer. Guess what? Only $10.5 billion is state general fund. Think about that. We're #1 in the nation per capita for federal money. We're #2 in poverty. We're #1 in per capita for federal money because we're the poorest, most unhealthiest, and most uneducated state in the nation, ladies and gentlemen. That's a fact. So how do you divide that money up? You know what I'm going to do? As soon as I get elected, we're coming right back into a special session because I think it was a shame for the legislature to do what they do and then talk about, well, we need to invest in early childhood. We need to invest in law enforcement. This and that. Well, they had the best opportunity they may ever have in the history of our state to do it, and it didn't happen. We wasted millions on top of millions. You know how I know? Guess who by law has to sign the contracts? The state treasurer. We coming back in a special session, and we're going to put money where it's supposed to be spent in this state on all the things that we talked about. That's what we're going to do.
You know, the goal of increasing the percentage of credentials, it's nice. It's not the end-all be-all, and let me tell you why. A credential is only good if it gives that student a pathway to a better way of life. So if we meet our threshold by doubling down on general education degrees that take a lot of Pell Grant money, take a lot of TOPS money, take a lot of loan money, we've done nothing except made a good press release, and we've done a disservice to that student. Now, if we use that credentialing and say, I want more nurses, if we use that I want more mental health officials, I want more early education, and we incentivize the universities to be targeted on high-need regional workforce gaps, and we meet those credentials, then we're moving the needle. So it's nice to get to 60% credentials, because that's a good thing. But if we water down our expectations to get there, we have wasted those students' money, and we have put an anchor around their ankle when they go try to compete in the modern economy. Because in the modern economy, you need skills to compete in the jobs we need. It's nursing, it's mental health, it's early ed, it's all the issues we're talking about. So I want to incentivize the universities to double down on that, and quite frankly, put a little stick in there if they go to try to water down degrees to meet that threshold.
So the programs that we have designed and funded to do that are overprescribed are actually targeting those key positions already. The most important thing we need to do is sustain it. You're not going to get there overnight. They said by 2030. If you take the resources we have and allocate it appropriately to a substantial increase in what you can fund, you can deliver that. And you will also fill the jobs that are available for the positions that we're looking to train individuals for. We also have to work with the nonprofit sector and the private sector, because they can partner with us to train people for what they need. Go look at the healthcare industry. Go look at Ochsner and other programs. There's a lot we can do in the state to address the certifications and the requirements to become teachers, to be able to produce more nurses, to produce more educators, and ensure that we can build a pipeline for those positions that we know we absolutely need. We've got an entire industry of clean energy that's coming to Louisiana that we need to be on the front end from renewables. We should have been training people for that 5 years ago, 3 years ago. Let's take those resources, retrain folks for it, and they can acquire those more better paying jobs that are going to come to this state.
The single best investment you can make in our state is by investing in our people. And we are not going to get to 60% credentialed people by the year 2030 without focusing on our adult workers. Those are the ones that are 27 years old on average, and they've gotten a high school degree, and they can't afford, they've got 2 jobs, 2 kids, and they can't afford the $5,000 to go back to Nunez Community College and get a new work skill. So here's what I did about that this session, and it was one of the hardest bills that I carried, and that was to tweak the Foster Promise program. The problem with Foster Promise, last year, we had $10.5 million appropriated for that program, and we only got $1 million out the door. That's where you had the, 18,000 people wait list. So what do we do about that? And what's the problem? Well, they couldn't fill out the FAFSA. That program was designed to be federal dollars first, state dollars second. I changed it, which was a courageous thing for a Republican to do, to make it state dollar first. We're going to pay for their first semester of tuition, get them in the door, get them with a financial counselor, and then package the federal funding after that. That's how you educate your adult workers.
Did you start that? My bad.
Whose bad is it?
Yes, it's almost 8:30, ma'am.
There I go. I mean, so I'm not perfect. It's okay. So this will go for Treasurer Schroeder. The need for increased mental health services in our state is a key issue that Ellevate has prioritized since our inception. It's truly a public safety versus public health issue. Many other states have developed networks of crisis stabilization units to help law enforcement de-escalate crisis situations. They provide environments where individuals in crisis can stabilize and be triaged into treatment rather than end up homeless, in trouble with the law, or committing a violent crime. There are some areas, such as Baton Rouge, that have had these services in place, but most major cities in Louisiana, like New Orleans and Shreveport, have very limited crisis systems. What will you do to bring Louisiana up to date in its mental health systems, and how will you fund that?
As I said earlier, we're going to come in a special session because if early childhood and crime prevention is our priorities, then that's what we're going to do. Mental health is part of that. Deterring crime, preventing crime is all part of mental health. Mental health helps you prevent and deter crime. Hunter's not the only one that's been under these bridges. I'm from New Orleans. You know what the sad part is as a veteran? It's sad that we have any homeless people. How many veterans we have in the room? You ought to go find out how many of them are veterans. And this tell you is the problem is with the veterans, they can go to the VA. And they're too mentally ill to take advantage of it's there. So it wouldn't be that hard to be proactive and get some of these homeless veterans off the streets into our VA facilities. I've toured them. It's all there. But the whole thing about mental health and crime is like this because it's connected. Dude, as a former law enforcement guy, you see it every day. We got a horrible drug problem in this country and in this state.
You know, the cool thing about when you're a candidate, there's lots of things that are not cool about being a candidate, but there are some things that are cool about it, and you go around the state and you learn a lot. So if you're in Calcasieu, anyone from Calcasieu here? All right. Hey, Calcasieu. All right. So there's something called the MARC. You familiar with the MARC? The Multi-Agency Resource Center. It's really cool. And what they do there is they put local dollars together, they put together this facility, and so they bring in a young, sometimes it's an offender, sometimes it's a concerned parent, bringing in, sometimes it's law enforcement, and they do an assessment. And you go down one hallway to get your GED, one hallway to get your drug treatment, and one hallway you're going to go behind bars for a little bit because you're causing a lot of trouble to the community. And they do that assessment, and it's therapeutic, and the parents are there, and they've just taken the lead on it. On the North Shore, they've got something else similar going like that. Ascension Parish is trying to get regional parishes together to do an assessment to build something like that. The state can be a good partner to help these local regions with surplus dollars to help with some of these facilities, try to find some ways to match some of those dollars. But regions are taking the lead on this. And that's really cool. They're using some of their economic growth in those areas to fund some of this. So areas that have a growing economy have resources to fund some of this, and the state can come in and be a great partner to take it to the next level.
You know, Tip O'Neill said all politics are local. The first line of defense for this issue of mental health is going to have to be our local governments because they are where the rubber meets the road. We have to, at the state level, be able to support them and work with them and provide resources that can assist them in achieving that goal. No different than the city of New Orleans or Baton Rouge or others that have actually paid and created these new crisis intervention units. We've got to also train the social workers. That's a great way to make it affordable. For young people to go to school is to make a commitment to work in that space. That's a proven model of what we've done. We have to figure out a way to use the Medicaid expansion to free up additional state dollars and ask for the waivers to make those investments. We've got enough blighted property across this state to create the facilities that will serve the needs of our citizens. And we have to have the intergovernmental relationships between the different agencies at the state level to be able to allocate those resources and leverage them so that we can create those types of benefits and services to address the needs. You've got to have a governor that's going to lead that collaboration, and I assure you, Jeff Landry is not capable of doing that.
Individuals that have a mental health event generally end up in the emergency room or in jail, and then they're released. And we never did address the problem. We didn't give them any help whatsoever. We just kind of diffused the incident for the moment. So yes, we do need to have more crisis management. And I mentioned this earlier, and there are probably programs elsewhere in the state. But in St. Tammany, we're doing a pilot right now where there is a mental health professional basically on call that is dispatched along with, you know, all of the emergency type people to an event and does the triage to determine what mental health work needs to be done for that individual, and they take them to the Nest Center where they have many, many different types of services available and get them to the right place. And then there's a program that they're kind of put into. And so that's the kind of thing that we need to do, where we're actually doing something. We're not just rotating a revolving door and diffusing the situation and putting people back out on the street. And so I'm very hopeful that this is going to demonstrate good data that then we can scale around the state.
You know, Louisiana at one time had the best charity hospital system in the nation. We had some of the best UL system. Governor Jindal messed both of them up. We had programs, wraparound programs, where Volunteers of America could grab somebody that has mental illness, and they wrapped around them. They taught them how to live independently. The funding was there so that they could learn to get a job and do things. They got counseling. They got treatment. They had medical treatment. We've got to rebuild facilities like we had years ago. We got to reactivate. We got to get people that are homeless. I talked to one today that was a veteran. I talked to another lady that clearly she was probably on drugs. I talked to another man who just was in fear of me talking to him. But the more I talked to him, the more he embraced me, the more he talked. He was from Memphis, Tennessee. He was intelligent. That's what the homeless looks like. We have to help them, reach out and get them on, put them in a place where they can get all the care. We get them back. When we're doing that, we're cleaning up poverty. When we clean up poverty, we increase our economy. When we clean up poverty, we reduce our crime, because that's where the drug dealing is taking place, in the impoverished, blighted areas. So when I call special session, we'll change the redemption laws. We'll tackle the budget. We'll fight the insurance issue. We'll do all the things. And I know I'm out of time.
Yes.
Or he just set the buzzer early to try to cut me off. One of the two. And so anyway, thank you.
All right, and this next question, we'll start with Stephen Wagasback. This is an Ellevate, like, deeply held tenant. The state of Louisiana's nursing homes have received a lot of attention in the last few years. There has also been a great deal of effort legislatively to provide more home and community-based services to our elderly so that they may be allowed to receive care in their home instead of in an institution. As governor, you will have the opportunity to support the Department of Health practices and policies and funding to increase home and community-based services for the elderly. You can do that as governor without the legislature. Will you be willing to allocate funding to allow more choices for seniors to remain in their homes instead of institutional care? What will you do to ensure that all nursing homes are operating at a standard of care and with the environmental quality that our seniors deserved?
I think all care for seniors needs to be held accountable, whether it's in the home or in a facility. So my dad died of Alzheimer's in our home for the last couple of years. He was in hospice for the last year. And we thought, hey, look at us. We have great insurance. We don't have to use a nursing home. We can stay in the home. Let me tell you something. It was miserable. The quality that walked in that house day in, day out scared my mom. It was a different person every day. I would be honest with you, it was a horrible experience. So access is not a panacea. The truth is, are you going to get quality whether you're in a nursing home or in your own home? That's what we owe parents. And so, yes, I want to give seniors flexibility and the families of seniors flexibility, but let's not pretend that home-based care is awesome on its own right. It can be. And let's not pretend that nursing homes are terrible. They can be great options also. We need both of them to be good quality options and empower people to make the best decisions at that moment. And if something changes a week or a month later, be able to pivot quickly to do that. That's what we need to do as a state. I think I'm ready to get us there as a state. So. And
You heard me
I could have kept going. The timer never started.
This question. And then what we're going to be doing, and this is where we had a little bit of a follow-up, is that we're going to switch to rapid fire. So we're going to do a few questions to close it up that are going to be really fast, but I want to get through this one, and then we'll do that. So it'll be a lot of fun. They love that, rapid fire.
You heard me say earlier, the way you measure a community is how we take care of the children and our seniors. And every senior deserves to have an opportunity to live out their life to the fullest for as long as they possibly can. And for some, that'll be in a nursing home. For some, that'll be in a loved one's home. And for some, it'll be in their home. My story is a little different. My grandmother, who was one of the most influential people for me, finished the last 7.5 years out of her life in a nursing home here in New Orleans, where we grew up. We lost 4 families. ripple effects and eliminate those generational opportunities for wealth and wealth development. So yeah, I support independent living. I support independent living if it's going to give them the outcome that they deserve and need, and I support the opportunity for our nursing home sector to be able to provide affordable care that is prestigious and accommodating for seniors.
Everybody wants more choices. You know, whether you're talking about how to educate your child, which I've passed legislation to do that, the governor vetoed that, or choices on how you age. I've never met an older person who didn't say, I want to age at home. Everybody wants to stay at home as long as they can. They feel like they give up their independence. But you do get to a point, and as we're having parents who are aging, you do get to a point where it's just not safe for you to stay home because you need additional care. And so I think that we can do both, and we have to have options. There definitely is a place for well-run nursing homes. There definitely is a place for more home and community-based care. And we know Louisiana, oh, by the way, is very upside down in how we fund that, right? We have a much higher percentage of people in nursing homes and very small population in home-based care because we have not been able to fight the Nursing Home Association to be able to really offer that as a competitive option. And so I will do that, Julie, as governor, because I do think people want choices.
I remind elderly people all the time that Moses was 80 years old when he led the Israelites out of Egypt. So today's 80 is really an older age. I'm not going to hold anything against the youth of this panel up here. And so,
Yes, it's bedtime.
so I believe we got to take it. My mother was living in a senior living facility when Hurricane Laura hit and destroyed that facility. Evacuated her to Shreveport, and then her granddaughters took turns taking care of her. When she came back to Lake Charles, she said, I'm going to live independent again. She bought a home. She lives in the neighborhood close to where that is, and she lives independently at 91 years of age. So we have senior citizens that we have to take care of and that we have to provide the funding. And I'm against the present law that allows you, that makes you gut all your finances so you can get Medicaid to pay for the nursing home. I mean, everybody has to deplete that. That can be changed, and we can work on changing that to protect our senior citizens. Yes, it's all about our children, and it's about our senior citizens. And you judge the character of a person by how they're willing to take care of their parents.
So my son of 30, fixing to be 35, has been a geriatrics nurse his entire career. So we know that space pretty well. But look, we live in a poor state. You know, people in this room may be deciding on nursing home and this, that, and guess what the majority of people in Louisiana are doing? The majority of people don't look like this room. You know, that's a fact. You know, the 85% that I talk about, they're not going to have a discussion on whether they go in a nursing home or not. Most of them either don't have the insurance to pay for it. I mean, look, in my space as an entrepreneur and business guy, quite frankly, everything we've talked about tonight, have we found anything yet that government does well? Other than the unclaimed property program run by my department? Have we talked about anything that government does well? We got to figure out how to get government out the way and bring private industry and entrepreneurs to the table to fix many of these problems.
Okay. So now we're going to have a little fun. So one word. You get one word. Just one word. One after the other.
This
One word.
group, one word.
One word. One word.
Hunter, you heard that? One word. Okay.
One word. So we're going to start with Sean Wilson, and we're just going to one word. Don't give me two words. Should Louisiana eliminate the income tax?
If I say it together, it'll be one word. Hell no.
Close enough. All right. Senator Hewitt.
Hell yes.
Partially.
All right. He did get one word. Treasurer.
I don't cuss, yes.
Eventually.
Eventually. Those are good answers. All right. All right, so the next one, we'll start with Senator Hewitt. Would you consider raising the minimum wage?
Yes.
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 Sure.
Hell yes.
See, this is more fun, I mean, right? All right.
Is there a hyphen?
All right. This one will start with Hunter.
I think you have to draw it. I think it's
Would-
a hell yeah.
You gotta sing it. You gotta sing it.
It's amazing.
See, these guys can give each other speeches by now, okay? They really can. So we'll start with Hunter. Would you consider or propose, let's say that, would you propose enacting an equal pay for women? Legislation.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely.
Sure.
That's awesome. We got that.
Look at Cassiope. Hell yes.
Absolutely.
There you go. Okay. All right. I'm telling you, this is so much fun if you know these people. I love this. So this one will start with Treasurer Schroeder. Would you keep the current climate action plan with or without some changes?
Wait, was there more to the question before?
No, yeah, he might have gone fast. I'll give you. Would you keep the current climate action plan with or without some changes?
Tweaked.
Tweaks.
Tweaked.
That's an answer.
I gotta put these through. Hell yes, with some changes.
Yeah, okay. See, there's some digging on this answer. I wish we could
That's
do,
just
but we
tweaked.
are out of time.
They can't follow
That's
directions.
tweaked. I just can't say it because you said it first.
I told y'all the rules aren't the rules. They don't know how to go.
We should have started this from the beginning. All right.
It's better with wine. I think that's part of it, though. It's better at the
Y'all are
end,
all
Julie.
drinking. Y'all, yeah.
I'm going to say it needs some tweaks.
I got one more.
Yes, with changes.
All right.
Can I add my extra words since everybody else?
Just say tweaked. Just say tweaked.
Fine.
All four of them.
You'll take them somewhere else.
Tweaked is a good word. You can say it.
All right. This one will start with Stephen Wagasback.
Okay.
After the failed attempt at streamlined sales tax collection at the polls in 2022, will you try it again in your first term?
Hit me, Sean. Give me your answer. Hit me. No. It's supposed to be hell yeah.
So that was a no.
That's my answer. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah?
yeah.
That was your answer? All right.
I can't tell what's going on down here.
I know.
Can you repeat the
See, I don't
question?
know if these count
Can
as
you repeat
words.
the question?
Yeah, I know.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah, sure. After the failed attempt at streamlined sales tax collection at the polls in 2022, will you try it again in your first term?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Very nice. All right. I like this. Okay, so we're going to do one more, and it's a. I want to give you 5 words, but I know you guys will do 7 words if I give you 5.
They will.
So we're going to do, I don't know. I'd like to see 1 word, if you can. And this is more of a like perfect ending question. But if you're elected governor, what 1 word would sum up what you want your legacy to be? No pressure.
1 word or 5? Make up your mind.
I think we should go with 1.
'Cause they're going to give you more than 1.
Well, you don't get to go first, and you might have used
Oh, I
yours.
ain't going first? How many words you giving us on that?
1.
1.
Yeah, I think y'all could do this. Senator Hewitt?
Game changer.
Yeah.
Word.
Okay.
2 words.
I knew y'all could do this.
Okay. Accomplishment.
caring.
Oh, you had to go sentimental on me. Wagaspag-palooza. We're going to have fun.
We're going to have fun.
It'll be a time worth remembering.
One word. Leadership.
Amen.
That was a good word.
Let's go. I mean, not as good as Wagaspag-palooza, but it's pretty.
Something tells me Wagaspag-palooza is getting in the newspaper tomorrow, but
Sorry, Colleen. My bad.
I gotta say, just thank you guys. Thank you for putting yourselves out there.
That's it? No closing, nothing?
This is the first
No,
debate
no.
we get a standing ovation.
Thank you for putting yourselves out there, and I mean, this is the first governor's election where I feel like I know everybody very well, and I really respect all of you guys, and thanks for putting yourself out there. I know it's not easy. God bless you, and thanks. I think we had a little bit of fun toward the end there, and I do see differences in you guys, and I really appreciate those differences. And I guarantee you, your message falls upon fertile ears with somebody here. Yep. So thank you for sharing it.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry about the lack of a closing, but that's what the single word on legacy was. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Woo! We did it! And thank you to my Ellevate board and all of you that showed up here and you care about Louisiana and you're willing to use your time to care about Louisiana. Y'all have a beautiful night, and half of y'all, I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, right now. Very, very